Hey guys, this is Cruise Roy. I picked up this flywing 450 V3, and what happened is there's a few of them out there. You plug in the ESC, you fly, it burns up. This one here, when you plug it into the software, legitimately says it only flew for 2 minutes. And it had an ESC problem. I don't think he crashed. He said he didn't crash, but he replaced the ESC with the 60 amp, but this is only a 4-cell. It's not the one that I can run a 5-cell battery or a 6-cell battery with. I mean, I kind of overlooked everything I could. I do see a little blade scraping here, but nothing serious. I don't think it crashed. If it did, it wasn't that severe. I took the swash control bar off, and one of the things I noticed, I don't know if this hurt the H1. I don't know if it hurt the tail blade, the motor. It seems fine. No nicks or scratches on this. If it was flown real quick. So I purchased it. I mean, a lot cheaper than new, but if you add it up, if it hurt the motor, you know, the motor's $40, the ESC is $70, the H1's over $100. I mean, what I'm finding now is I took the body off so I could look at it more. I'm just using a cheap small lipo that I got hanging around, but the servos. These are a DW HO41 MG. That stands for metal geared servo. But these things aren't top of the line. You know, they're $14 a piece. I got helis that have servos that are $200, $300 a piece. The thing I found though, your servos, just to show you, we're going to take this one right here, one of the ailerons, and you should be able to move them as long as there's no power to them. They should run smooth. Alright, so this one seems it's a little tight. The other side I unscrewed because it was kinking up, and this one's real stiff. And I mean, some are stiff, but they should all feel the same. They're the same model number. And like I said, there's no dust or anything on this unit. No scaffing or scarabing on the landing gear. So I think the 2-minute runtime was good, and it was one of the ones that lost the ESC. So this gentleman replaced it. I mean, I see a little nick mark in here. I don't know if that's from manufacturing. I mean, you get what you get with these. They're fairly simple. The flywing is very, very simple. I don't know, he could have replaced landing gear or whatever, but usually when you lose an ESC, you lose pretty much everything. And this ESC runs the tail and the motor. That's why I had an idea, if it's troublesome to get this, I'm going to run two Hobbywing 60 amps, one on top of each other with maybe a fan. If it fits in this unit. The one I wanted to show you though is, let me spin it around here. This here is the rear part of the cyclic. This is the one that makes you go forward or reverse. This is your rear servo. Now you take a look at this thing. I'm going to go down. I'm going to come up, and it stops. See how it stops? Up. And it stops. That's what the other one was doing until I loosened the screw. But if this thing's doing this in the air, you need to check these. These are, and if I keep messing with it, it does snap by, but something in there is wrong. It's either got a broken gear or whatever. So I don't know. See, now it's stuck that way. Alright, so it shouldn't be doing that. It's got some grease leaking out of it. And like I said, they're just, you know, $14 servos. There's high techs out there or whatever. I don't know if they work with this unit. a little bit more money. And you can't even get these servos right now, just like the ESC, the servos, anything practically with this except for a blade grip you really can't get in my area from the local hobby shop. So it's kind of like a brick to me now. I won't fly it until I figure out what's wrong with these servos. I might open them up, but sometimes what happens, you open these up and you lose a lot of little parts, or it could be a broken gear. But this one here is definitely leaking oil. So, but I don't know what's causing that lockup. See, it just kind of comes up and boom. So if you got that and you're trying to go forward and reverse, or you're trying to accelerate up or down, it's a bad servo. These are not really that great. So anyways, I just wanted to go over that, a few things. When you lose your ESC, it smokes out. I really don't know if the high voltage sent through the lines, it feeds your H1, feeds all your servos. It can handle up to 8.4 volts, but if a ESC is bad, you don't know if it's controlling the voltage. So also with that, with the fan motor, I mean, it's almost like I should just buy a new one, you know, and I don't know if it affects the GPS. I'm going to plug it in and try to check out. You know, it doesn't look like it popped free. Like I said, I don't see much damage. The only thing I do find funny is they were so cheap on their decals that this one's in reverse. They didn't know how to change it so you could read it. But otherwise, and they're a 3-piece canopy made of plastic. So in reality, if it crashed at all, it would have just split apart, even bolted to the unit. So it's got a top and two sides, and they're kind of CA'd together down here. You can see the clips. But I think he drilled this hole. I'm assuming they don't come with it. And he put a little label there to protect himself from at least pulling the GPS wire before he took the cover off. So I don't know the total history. I know somewhat of the history. Supposedly there's nothing wrong with this one, but it was also in mode 2 instead of mode 1, which I fly in. So I did figure out that. I did a whole reset on the radio. I got the regular radio for that, the ready to fly version. So I did fix that problem, but as for the servo problem and everything, I don't know kind of what I'm going to do yet. I mean, if I buy better servos, single tab, measure up the size, it's hard to find micros that are running 8.4 volts. These are actually 8.4 volts, but any other servo you get only go up to 6 volts. So it'd be good as long as you didn't go up to 6-cell batteries. Very simple design, very simple to take apart. I mean, there's some videos out there, and also when the motor's, I got it to spool up, and of course everybody had the discussion on the 2 screws on this plastic gear, but I do see a little tiny bit of debris on one gear here, so when it kind of comes around, it makes a click 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 noise. So that could have been from. And the other thing I see is red. If anybody could tell me on theirs if they have red wire ties. Normally companies use black, so that tells me that, you know, this, I would assume we had to take all the wiring out of here and everything to redo the ESC. But that's all I wanted to talk about. I mean, pretty much the thing looks brand new. I mean, I think he ended up with one of the bugged ones. I don't know if they're the ones coming over. There's no answer yet why the ESC just smokes. And yes, they've sold thousands maybe of these, and there's only very few that someone plugged a battery in and it smoked. I don't know if this one came with the 2.5 ESC, and I think the 2.5 ESC is a 6-cell. It's a 2.0 that only comes with a 4-cell. So I figured I'd throw a few of them things at you. I'll post some more stuff as I go along, but I think I'm going to slowly take apart this servo and see what's going on in here, because that's no good. You know, this thing could lock up trying to do an inverted or something and crash. And like I said, if they're selling them for $14, these are a $3 servo. you get what you pay for. But I'll see what I can do. I'm either going to rest it on a shelf for now because you can't find any parts. And that's pretty sad for a company this big. The parts come in spurts. So if you don't buy them the minute you see them, in my area, it would be Heli Direct. If you don't buy them right away, you're screwed. So, but I'm going to go through it more and check things. But I got to make the decision what I'm going to do, you know, because it could be too far gone and I might just sell off the parts. Alrighty? This is Cruise Roy and I'm out of here. Okay guys, this is Cruise Roy with the FW450 V3. These are the servos that come with it stock. They also use them on that the four-bladed helis. They're a little bit bigger than the one that came on a 2.0 or the 2.5. I opened it up and you can see they're like a little tiny time clock. So I'm trying to move it. The motor's here and that seems to be free. So I'm trying to go in one direction here. Hopefully you can see this. I'll have to look at the video later because with my old man eyes I can't see any debris in the gears. So I'm at a little bit of an angle here. So it was binding dead center. So there's something, either debris or something that ends up in these servos. But let's see if I can go past the straight point. I'll bring it to the straight point first and show you. But yeah, I can't grab the arm because there's points in here that if you do, the gears will just explode. The cover needs to be on to move them manually, and that's why you have a hard time, because the gear ratio is, you know, the way it's set up. You could break the servo forcing it right now without the pinions being held. So I'm going to keep moving here, getting closer to center. So here's center. I'm going to keep going, and I really don't feel anything with the gearbox open. So I don't know if when the cover's on from the factory it's binding on that, but I'll get back to you on it. I'm gonna take this arm off without losing the gears, and I'll put it back together, and I'll see if just leaving the horn tight but not tight, not squishing down on the gears, might prevent that. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay guys, I put the screws, everything back into the servo, and before I put the horn on, these are a nice servo. They have that flat spot on them. That's why I think you got to wait for these servos to come back. Not many servos have flat spots, so you'll have to redo the software. They've designed this heli around flat spotted servos for the horns. But what I'm going to do is I want to let this center up. I want to make sure. Let me back the camera up a little bit. I just want to make sure none of the servos are laying up against anything. Turn it on and let them center. I mean, I can turn the radio on. Turn the radio on. The GPS is not hooked up, but what I'm going to do is I want the servo to center itself. So put my cheap battery on there. Let's pull this guy up, see what he does. Okay, it's moving. It's centered. I'm going to move the sticks. Oh, wait a minute. I have to put it in 3D so your blue light's on. If you put it in 3D, you can pretty much run everything. Alright, I seem to not be hearing that click anymore. out of that servo. So let me shut that off. Never turn a servo with power on. Disconnect that. Shut the radio off. Alright, so I'm going to put the servo horn back on. I marked it, so like I said, they have flat spots on these. And I want to see if it locks up. Yeah, it's still locking up. It moves electronically, but this ain't safe. It's locking up in a certain spot. So I'm gonna have to get some magnifying glasses on, because this one keeps locking up. And it shouldn't do that. Alright, so I'll let you know what's going on. I just know this servo's junk. Okay guys, I'm back again. I put it back together and it still has lockup, and what I'm going to do is turn my fan off for a little bit so you can hear this, but listen to this servo. You need to check your servos. If they have any of this clicking or crap going on, and you're flying this, trying to do 3D and all of that, you're going to have problems. I don't know if that's because the EEC got burnt out on this one, it kind of screwed up the servos, or they're just subpar quality for this thing. And I'll let you listen. I'm going to move it. I'll be quiet and just listen and watch the motion. You hear the click. Click up. Click down. It's right in the centering position, and that could cause problems. You're not centering. And I hear it out of another one as well, so I hope this helps someone out, but please don't fly if these servos are clicking like that. I don't know what to do at this time. I can't find these. They're all out of stock. You can't even get them from China if you wanted to. Turn my fan back on here. But I hope it helps someone out. I mean, if your bird is flying erratic and all this stuff, I mean, for what you're getting for the money, this bird is, it's a pretty amazing. I'm not going to say anything bad about Flywing. I have the 200 and the other 450 2.0 that the belts fly off. So they tried to fix this with a gear setup, which was a better idea, you know. But the thing is, if you got servos clicking like this and you're using a flight controller that's supposed to try to keep the bird level, if you're locking up in the center and then you try to get out of problems, you're screwing up your servos and you're going to screw up the bird. Alright, so hope that helps someone out. I'm out of here. Okay guys, I'm back. I can't zoom in any closer than this without going blurry, but this gear here, it's pretty much broke right here. What I did was rotate this gear 180 degrees to bring it back on the good side, because this tooth is gone. That's where that's coming from. So this guy either crashed or this is a bad servo. I'm going to see if I can come in a little closer, trying to hold it so it don't fall apart, but see, it goes blurry right about there. Let's see, but technically it's right here. You can see the chip. So I'm going to put it back together and see if it's smooth running now by flipping the gear 180. Okay guys, I'm back. I'm going to plug in the heli and show you that servo. What I did was rotate the gear. I'm not going to get a perfect level here because I'm sitting on my bed, but alright, so I'm going to put it in 3D again. Oh, it already is blue lights on. and do not hear the click anymore. Shut my fan off real quick so you can hear. It's not perfect, but there's no click in that gear anymore. Alright, so turn my fan back on. I'll put this thing back together. But this was a success until I can get a brand new servo or something similar. Alright, I'm out of here. Okay guys, next test. I'm leaving this servo off. This was another one that had a little ratchet click to it, but I loosened up the screw, retightened it up, so sometimes that gets rid of that click. But let me boot it up, see if we hear any more clicking coming from the servos. Okay, I don't have the swash bar on right now. What I want to do is kind of, let me put it in 3D so I have full control of the blades. This one had a little click to it, but it seems to be gone now. I loosened the screw, pulled the horn up a little bit, and then put it on normally and not force the screw on. It's got Loctite. Alright, so I'm at the point where that seems good. The ESC must be working. Maybe I'll put this back on and the swasher lining bar, and we'll put the tail on and see if I can get her to spin. I know moving this, I was getting a rattle out of the gear by spinning it, but I'll be back. Okay guys, just to be clear here, when you start messing with these servos, maybe changing, you know, the head or the swash plate or the H1, the way you fish the wires, I don't know if you can see this, but they're real close to this servo horn. I could imagine why that gear got stripped. There's so many wires that are kind of flip-flopped in here. I don't know if you can see them, but you got to get them kind of pushed out of the way, push them back. They bend, so. But when I got this thing, these wires were touching this horn, so if this thing's trying to go up and down, it's going to hook on the wires and eventually have another problem. So that I would try to move them out of the way in a way it doesn't touch this servo horn. These servo horns are free, and this one as well, so it's not too bad. Okay, so what I want to do now is just put up, I'm going to turn the radio on again. I'm going to hook a battery to it. Alright, so I'm happy with the servos. I'm gonna go ahead and plug into the ESC. I want to fire up the motor. I don't have the tail on, but I'm gonna fire up the motor, the main motor. I know that it might shut down without the tail blades on it, but we'll see. Let it boot up. Alright, that's a lot smoother than when I got this thing. I don't know if I'm true level on that back one because I rotated the gear all the way around, but hopefully it is. Let me put it into 3D. Once you're in 3D, you got this blue light. You can do anything you want. What I'm going to do right now is I don't hear any clicking. What I am getting though, what I don't like is the swash going up and down is not staying level. It's tipping up, tipping down, but that could be the H1 controller doing that. I'm not used to that on a normal fly controller, fly byless controller. It does not do that. It doesn't tip forward. This thing should go straight up and down. So that's the rate of speed on this servo is faster. So I can check that in the radio, but I think that's everything to do with flywing. That's the way they have this thing set up. Because, you know, as we move it, it's going to self-level itself. Alright, but I'm in 3D right now. It shouldn't be doing that. Alright, so anyways, I'm going to hold here because the front bolts are missing because the canopy's gone. And it's in blue. You can pull the sticks out till she blinks. Alright, she started blinking. I'm going to hit the run switch. I'm going to hold the bird right about here. Alright, that's a sound that I don't like. The mesh is way too tight on this. I don't know if there's any adjustments. Normally you would see a slotted hole like this on the motor and you could adjust the pinion. That's way too loud. That's grinding up against the gear and you're going to end up with some problems there. So I'm going to shut down again. I'm going to check. I'm going to take this off, see if I can adjust it. I kind of didn't like that noise coming out of a, you know, an in-runner motor. You know, so this cover is probably loose, but I don't like that noise, the gear and pinion. That's too loud. Alright, so I'll get back to you in a bit. Okay guys, I'm back. I loosened the motor mount bracket here, and I don't know if you can see the play. There is somewhat play. So if you're tilted forward or tilted back, trying to make sure you can see that, you're going to have a bad gear mesh. I've flown helicopters for a long time. Very important to have a very good gear mesh. I inspected the gear. Always check your gear for any burrs or nicks, and that looks okay. The motor has an aluminum pinion. I do see some nickage happening right here because I think it's a little bit out of alignment. So just to show you a trick, I don't know, flywing flyers, I'm intrigued with this heli because of what it can do and the cost that it costs people. So it gets a new generation of flyers back into the helis. They're very difficult to fly, but flywings made it easy. If I was to talk about quality, I listen to Asilamo a lot. There's a lot of helis out there that are super quality. I have SAB helis, I have Trex helis, and their products are very superb. Flywing, I'm going to put them in the middle. There's certain things that I would have changed. Everything is simple though. The thing I like about it, everything's simple. 2 side frames, a couple of bearing mounts, a swash alignment tool, 2 base plates to hold, and a removable battery tray, some skids, a canopy. There isn't a lot here. I mean, if I pulled out another heli side by side, there's probably more parts in an SAB 700 head than there is in this whole helicopter. So, but anyways, getting back to when you're building a heli and you want to get this gear right. So we're going to try an old trick and then we'll fire it up again. You heard the way this thing sounds. It sounds like 2 gears grinding. So what we used to do was take, this is just a piece of paper, printing paper, fold it in half. You got to make it small enough to fit on the gear to get into this heli. It's a little smaller. You can hardly see the pinion, so to line this up by eye is totally impossible. So get this piece of paper in here and start turning the motor. Get it to like half of that paper's in there. Alright? So if you can see it, the gear's making a crease. I'll show you a test one that I did. The paper should start to look like that. You're getting the teeth marks from that. So the full gear has paper between that and the mesh. Now, take your driver and slowly snug everything up. You don't want to twist the mount, because like I said, this motor has a tilt in it. So if it's sitting this way and the gear is that way, you're going to get some grind. Maybe this will make it worse. Maybe it'll be alright. Flywing designs their helis a little bit different than I've seen most, because they're already pre-built for you. You're taking them out of the box and you're going flying. The thing that happens is we all have accidents. I probably crashed over 100 helis in my time, and it gets expensive with the parts, but they make it simple. Unfortunately, right now is a part problem. You can't really get any parts for this, so you got to use a little bit of ingenuity. They're not impossible. Servos can be replaced with other servos just by matching sizes, and it might be what I do, because $13 servos don't really impress me. Alright, so I got them tightened. I should re-Loctite them. For right now, I'm just showing you what I'm doing. Now I got them snug, but they're not really tight because I got this little tiny thing, so I'm going to take my ball link remover, and I just want to give it that extra couple of pounds of torque with a little leverage. Don't break the screws. Have patience. I'm just putting like a 1/64th turn on these, because that's very important that it doesn't rattle free. Alright, so we got it on there. Let me pull the shim out. Alright, it leaves these funny looking chafe marks if you can see them. The light's in the way, so let me block the light. See? But anyways, back to this. Let me turn the radio back on. Let's get an idea of what I did. I either made it worse or made it better. Plug in the battery. Switches are all in the right place. Now I still haven't tested the GPS or the tail, but I'm liking the way the servos sound. Alright. Let me put her into 3D so I can do whatever I want. Blue lights on. Sticks out. Lights blinking. I'm going to hold the helicopter stationary. Still kind of there. Not as bad. So if someone else can fire theirs up without the canopy on and let me know. So it was clicking a lot. Now it's just like a tick, tick, tick. So it could be, I'd have to look at this gear really, really close, and it could be a nick in it. But I know now that my pitch is good between the gear. I got a little tiny slop in here. It's not really a good mesh between the two gears. You have pretty sure that's a spiral in there. And I don't know if the motor has it positioned in the right place. It's not at the halfway point. I don't know if you can see it, but the pinion gear is flush with the bottom of the main gear. So that tells me, and there's enough shaft in there, that if you wanted to, you could push this more into the center of the gear. So this is a partial slant, slanted pinion gears, but I don't feel that clickety click when I move it by hand. I think the clickety click's coming from this head unit now, the cover to the brushless motor. But I'll investigate more. I'm much happier with the gear mesh right now than there was, because it's nice and smooth when I'm moving it like by hand. It's when it starts to rev. But like I said, if I can hold the motor, let me see if I can bring it closer. You hear that noise? That's because it's a sloppy mesh. So that sloppy mesh, as it's spinning, it's clicking like that. Alright? So you'd never get it perfect. But if someone has a video of theirs with the canopy off, running, and it don't sound like this, let me know, please. Alright, let me get back to work here. I'm going to start working on possibly the tail. I'm going to look at the gear better under a mag light I got. I wear these, I wear old man eyes, but I got these lops too. So I want to take a better look at the gear, and I'll let you know if I saw anything. If I don't say anything, then there was nothing wrong with it. Alright, we just have a rattly motor. Alright, I'll be back. Okay guys, I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this gear. I mean, it's just the simplest thing. It'll wear in. See if I can focus in on it. But it's right there. See that scratch mark? Don't know where it came from, but it's a gouge. So that could be passing the gear and click, click, click. Just enough to make a noise. It'll wear in, and also there's a little tiny chip here if you can see it. So that as well could hit that spiral gear and make all kinds of noise. So I'll have to put that on the list too. These are on back order too, so I'll have to put a new gear on and try to find one. Alright, I'll catch up with you in a minute. Okay guys, I got a little noise out of the tail. I'm going to try to get it in the camera here. Let me hit the switch to 3D. Alright, I'm going to fire it up real quick. Hopefully you can see the tail in this position where I am. Try to make it not touch the tip of my bed here. Okay, sticks out. Let's get a little blinkage going on. Alright, I'm going to turn it on. Well, not liking that gear noise, plus I can stop this fan with my finger. Alright guys, a little bit more investigation here. I don't know if there's something wrong with that motor. Seems to be spinning the right way because of the way they have this little tip. But not liking that motor sound still. So I'm going to do some more investigating, and I'm going to check things out. I don't know if it's, I mean, they say if the blades are not on, the flywing controller won't feel the blades, the tail won't work right. And not sure, my 2.0, the blade's flying. You'd never put your finger on it like that while it's starting. So I'll get back to you on what's happening. I'm out of here.